Hello there, this is Miss Shibley with our skills lesson for today, and we are on lesson 15. Our I can or what I will learn for today are I can read plural nouns ending in S and ES and sort words according to their pronunciation. I can read the story The Visit with purpose and understanding. I can answer short answer questions about the story. So we're going to start with our plural markers. So on my screen, you can see that there are 3 different columns. We have cats. So if it has a S sound at the end, dogs with a Z sound at the end, or foxes with a Ez sound at the end. Okay, I'm going to say a word, and we are going to make it plural. And we're going to do a couple of them together, but I want you to think about which column they would belong in. Because when we make singular nouns into plural nouns, we normally add S or ES to the end of it. So if I were to make the word hat into hats so that I have more than one hat, what column do you think it will go into? Does it sound like cats, dogs, or foxes? You're right. It would go under cats. What about the word kid? I have more than one kid in my classroom, so I have kids in my classroom. Did you hear s, z, or ez? Awesome. Kids. You heard the z sound. What about the word lunch? We have to get our lunches from our field trip. Great job. You heard the ez sound. So, like foxes, lunches. What about the word step? We have many steps to complete. You're right, it would be the s sound, like cats. Plane. If I have more than one plane, I have many planes. And that's right, you heard the z sound at the end, planes. Okay, what about wish? If I have more than one wish, I have many wishes. Do you hear s, z, or ez at the end? You heard the ez, so it'll go into foxes. What about the word egg? If I have more than one egg, I have eggs. Where would that go? In the s, z, or ez? It would go in the z, like dogs. Great job. What about the word ranch? If I have more than one ranch, I have ranches. What do you hear at the end? You're right. Ez, like foxes. And our last one is the word bike. If I have more than one bike, I have bikes. And you heard that s sound like cats. Okay, now it is your turn to practice on your own. You're going to turn in your skills book to 15.2, and the number at the bottom is the number 67. You're going to put the words under the correct column. So, cats, they told you has the s sound at the end. So you'd write the word cats. You're going to trace it. Dogs has that z sound. So you're going to trace it there. And foxes, you hear the ez at the end. and they have it here, you're going to sort the rest of the words. And I'll read them just so that you can hear them before you practice. Sharks, forks, kids, dishes, porches, hands, crabs. Okay. Oh, and now it's on to our story. How exciting! Our story for today is called The Visit. And before we start reading, we have some words that we might need to preview so that once we come across them in our story, we know what they say. Okay, we have knapsack, and in this word KN, it does the sound N. In these words, C says S, so nice, place, exercise. These ones are 2-syllable words. So frisbee, and if you don't know what that is, I have a picture of a dog playing frisbee right here. It is that plastic disc that can be thrown. Then there's sunscreen and flip-flops. And there's pictures of flip-flops right here. Then we have 3-syllable words. And you would, if you read them in your story, you would chunk them just like you would our 2-syllable words. So we'd go exercise and use our skills that we have. Our core vocabulary for our story is the word flip-flops, which are open-toed shoes with straps across the front that are usually worn in warm weather. And they're right here on this page, down at the bottom. Then there is cove, a small area of ocean surrounded by land. An example of that is we walk to the cove to go fishing. Wade means to walk through shallow water. For example, my sister likes to wade in the water by the shore because she does not like the waves. And then we have yelping, making a short, high-pitched noise or squealing. The children were yelping as they jumped into the cold water. Time for our story. The Visit. The Spencers are on a trip to visit their gran. It's a long car ride from the farm. Their dad drives in the morning. Then their mom drives after lunch. Grace and Jill feel like the trip will never end. At last, they get to Gran's place. Grace and Jill run up to their gran and hug her. "It's so nice to see you," says Gran. "Gran," Jill says, "can we run down and swim?" After the long car ride, the children need some exercise. And that's one of our 3-syllable word, exercise. Gran smiles. She grabs her knapsack and points to the flip-flops on her feet and says, "I'm all set." And what we just read was on page 40. And our picture is on page 41. 42. Grace and Jill get dressed for swimming. They rub sunscreen on their arms and legs. Mr. Spencer helps them rub the sunscreen on their backs. Once the sunscreen is on, Grace and Jill run down the path to the cove. When they get there, they wade in, yelping as the cool waves crash past them. Grace and Jill splash and ride the waves. They dig for crabs and pick up shells. They toss a frisbee back and forth. They munch on snacks and sit in the sun. It's fun to visit with Gran. Oh, and that's the end of our story for today. So now we are on our discussion questions, which means we have to think about what we just read or what you just heard me read to you. And if you were reading along with me, it would be what you read too. Okay, number 1. Who do the Spencers visit? They visit their grandmother, Gran. Did you know that Gran is short for grandmother? Number 2. Where do Grace and Jill go with Gran? Grace and Jill go to the beach. What do the children do at the beach? At the beach, the children splash and ride the waves. They dig for crabs and pick up shells. They toss a frisbee. They munch on snacks. They sit in the sun. They do a lot of different things. And why are the children putting on sunscreen? Grace and Jill might need to put on sunscreen because it is very sunny at the beach and they don't want to get sunburned. Oh, there is our activity page for today. We are on page 15.3. And down at the bottom, it says the number 69. Up at the top, you're going to write your name like I wrote mine. I'm going to write Miss Shibley because that's my name, but you need to write your name. And then today's date, May 19th, 2020. If you don't know how to spell May, it's right at the top of my page. Capital M-A-Y 19. Then you need a comma. 2020. Got it? Okay, if you need a pause at all during our video, go ahead. Don't forget to press play when you're ready to start again. Number 1. How do Grace and Jill feel in the car ride to visit their gran? The first thing we need to do is rephrase our question. So Grace and Jill feel. And I'm going to give you a chance to copy that down, but I'm not going to finish that sentence for you. Now it's time for you to finish the sentence. We did the starter. You can finish it. So Grace and Jill feel. And if you need to, you can scroll back to our story. Grace and Jill feel like the trip will never end. And you can fill that in on your lines. And that's on page 40. Number 2. What do Grace and Jill do to get set to swim? Grace and Jill get dressed for swimming. They rub. Oh, and now it's time for you to remember what they rubbed. What did they do to help get their skin ready at the beach so they wouldn't get burned? And if you don't remember, you can scroll back so that you can see page 42 on your screen. Don't forget, you can pause if you need to. Number 3. Name 3 things Grace and Jill do with Gran. Oh, and I did most of this one for you. You just need to fill in right here where this blank is. So, Grace and Jill, so we're rephrasing the question, munched on snacks, that's 1 thing, dug up shells, that's 2 things, and blank. You have to fill in the 3rd thing that they did. And then we end it with Gran, period. And make sure that you're writing nice and neat, that you're using your finger spaces, that your letters are touching the top and the bottom when they need to, or touching the middle and the bottom. And to help you find the answers to this question, if you need to look back, it is on page 42. Don't forget to send your teacher a picture. Thanks for joining me.